For the past year, I've only eaten meat and eggs, and it's absolutely changed my life for the better. I've been able to build more muscle, get leaner, and feel absolutely amazing basically the entire time. My relationship with food is much better. I don't have any more, bloating or brain fog or lethargy like I used to whenever I was eating a bunch of whack plants. And the meals that I eat are still absolutely delicious. Carnivore diet, ketogenic carnivore diet specifically, it's where it's at in my opinion. Um, but I always get the question sometimes whenever I'm talking to newer people, like, wait, you only eat meat? Why? And like they always ask me like why I started doing it to begin with. And they always ask me like, why don't you eat bread? Why don't you do this? Why? And so I'm gonna answer kind of like the why I started in this video and why you should consider starting it as well. Like you don't have to stick to it for as long as I have, but I would recommend anyone at least try it out for 30 days. Like I've gotten a couple of my family members to try it out for 30 days and they've felt the benefits of eating more meat in their diet. And so I'm really glad that they've done that, and I'd be more than ecstatic if you gave it a shot as well. If you don't know me, my name is Keegan. I help people get onto low carb slash carnivore, whatever version that you want to do. And yeah, just help people get onto that, improve their health and their fitness and just their life overall. So, with that, let's talk about why I started carnivore. There's a couple of distinct reasons. The first one I think we'll talk about is, I guess, the deleterious effects that that eating anything else causes. Now, whenever people in this sort of space make the argument, oh, but like plant toxins, right? There's always going to be someone who says, oh, but certain animals have toxins in them too. Like, it's the stupidest thing ever. Like, it's funny because they talk about like poisonous animals and whatnot, or like poison sacs, like frogs and bats and stuff that could be toxic for human consumption. But the vast majority of the calories that people eat isn't bats and frogs and like weird things, right? It's funny whenever they make that argument. It's like nobody's gonna be going around eating a bunch of, I don't know, like bees or wasps, and getting that venom, ingesting that venom or whatever. Like it's just not going to happen. And if you're getting the majority of your calories from, a common meat source like a cow, it detoxifies all the things that it eats within its rumen. So that argument is kind of null. I just want to get that out of the way. It was annoying whenever I saw it before, so I just want to clear that up. But that kind of leads us into the whole argument there, which is plants have defense chemicals. Plants have toxins. The things in plants are not safe for you to consume, at least in high doses, or just in general. So here's what I mean. Whenever you eat something spicy or you have something that's bitter and it sends a signal to your tongue, it's like, whoa, this is something. It sends like an alert signal. Whenever you eat something like Brussels sprouts or you have a chili pepper that's hot, that's a plant defense chemical that your body is seeing. It's recognizing that. And the reason why it gives you kind of like a weird kick, a weird taste, is because your body doesn't want it inside of it. The hot taste, why you start to sweat, and why your mucus starts to run, and your mouth gets all hot, and your face gets flushed whenever you have hot sauce or like a chili seed. It's because that thing, your body does not want it inside of it. It does not want that capsaicin inside of it, so it tries to get it out. And some people can tolerate it better than others, but the reason why that signal is there to begin with is because it's a toxin to your body. Now, will it kill you immediately? Not necessarily, no. It's meant to be a deterrent because the plant does not want you eating its seed. It does not want you eating it, because if you eat it, then its seed doesn't get passed on. It doesn't, come out the other end, untouched. It gets pooped out, and it's like it's not even germinated or anything like that. There's certain birds, I believe, who are able to eat the seeds of like peppers, but they don't get the same capsaicin reaction because they've evolved to deal with that plant toxin. We are not with something like capsaicin and like a chili pepper, right? We're not evolved for that. And we're not evolved for basically any plant toxins that we come into nowadays. And I mean, a good example of this is if you go out into the wild, you can't just eat any sort of plant. You can't, right? Unless you find like a wild blueberry bush, you can't really find any sort of, like, you can't just go out and pick a random berry that you see off a tree and just eat it because chances are it's going to make you sick or you're going to die. Why is that? How is it that we can eat these sorts of plants in the grocery store, but these ones outside in nature we can't? It's because we've created the ones in the grocery store to have less toxin. That doesn't mean that they're void of them, though, right? So stuff like broccoli, cauliflower, freaking kale, spinach, all of those things, they have defense chemicals in them. They're just greatly reduced so that you don't immediately die or get poisoned from them. And that's cool because we can have more variety in foods or whatever, but that doesn't mean that it's going to necessarily help you with your health. And so that's kind of the first reason that I personally avoid plants, is just because they have those chemical deterrents that don't they don't mesh well with your body. There's some, I mean, like the capsaicin that make your face all hot and like sweaty and stuff because your body literally thinks there's like something hot there. I mean, there's stuff like oxalates in spinach, for example. And if you eat those, they're literally like they're just built into the structure of the plant. But what they'll do is they'll bind to the calcium that you eat, and they can irritate your gut whenever they do that because they'll form calcium oxalate crystals in your gut and start irritating your gut. If the oxalates get into your bloodstream, they can start binding to the calcium in your blood, and eventually they can get into your kidneys and create calcium oxalate stones in your kidneys. And I forgot what percentage it was. It's I think it's like 2/3 of kidney stones are caused by oxalate, yeah, oxalate calcium stones. I could be wrong on that. I just know it's a high percentage. Um, but yeah, I mean, those are just two examples, honestly. And so I just personally avoid those because like plants don't want you to eat them. That's just the simple fact. There's some people who say plants are trying to kill you. I don't know if they're necessarily going out of their way to kill you. They just want to chill. They just want to survive, right? They want you to leave them alone and just respect their space. And so I'll do that. I love plants. I'll respect them and not eat them. Thank you. Because I can't process them, right? Here's another thing, and I think this tacks on to it as well. Fiber. Some people say, "Oh, fiber is so healthy for you because it'll clear out your gut. It's indigestible. It's so good for you." It's indigestible. How can it possibly be good for you? Like, people will say fiber is an essential nutrient. That's BS because there's literally no way that that could classify as an essential nutrient. One, because you don't need fiber to survive. And two, fiber's not even a fucking nutrient, right? A nutrient is something that you can use for like energy, or it's vital for some system in your body. Fiber is neither of those. It does not check any of those boxes. It is just indigestible plant material that goes through your gut, irritates your gut, by the way, can cause constipation, and then it passes out the other end. And it blocks the absorption of the actual nutrients that you want in your body, right? Let's say, for example, you eat a bunch of like, I don't know, like you have a bunch of multivitamins, you have all this stuff in like capsule form, but then you also eat a bunch of broccoli with it. You're not going to get as much of those vitamins as you would have if you just taken them by themselves or with a little bit of non-fibrous food, because the fiber, whenever it goes into your digestive tract, it meshes together and creates this sort of matrix that blocks the absorption of food. And that can be fine. Like if you're eating a lot of junk food, fiber is probably a good thing because then you'll block the absorption of the nonsense. But if you're trying to actually eat like a nutrient dense real diet and you don't eat junk food, then you're just shooting yourself in the foot by eating fiber. It's just the facts. Like you're just not going to get the same amount of nutrition that you would had you not eaten that fiber. I mean, if you're eating a bunch of carbohydrates, maybe the fiber is actually a good thing because then you're not absorbing the sugar, but at the same time, you're blocking the absorption of the fat and the protein that you need to survive. So, yeah, I think that covers kind of the first thing is you just like, there's really no benefits to eating plants. There really isn't. If anything, there's only negatives. And that's what I've experienced. I've eaten a lot of like plant based things before, and almost all of the time it just ends up in negative things. So I tend to avoid that. Yeah, I'll save that story for another time. There was this one time. Actually, I'll just tell you right now. I ate a whole on jalapeno once, and I was saying that like you get all flushed and whatnot. I ate a whole jalapeno once. Actually, I don't think I actually ate it, but I got to the part where I was chewing it down. It was a bad time, bro. I was like coughing, like, and my I was messed up for like 20 minutes, bro. It was crazy. I was at a hot pepper eating contest, bro. It was a couple of years ago before I started this diet. Yeah, I was remembering that. There's no benefits to eating plants, not really. Unless you're eating a bunch of junk food, then vegetables probably will help you there. But if you're not eating junk food, then there's, in my opinion, really no point to eating vegetables unless you really, really like them. Um, but yeah, moving on, I found, I guess this goes on to the same point as well, but carbohydrates and those sorts of things, because whenever you get rid of the vegetables that have the majority of the plant toxins and whatnot, then you're onto the sort of meat and fruit diet that I've also tried that before where I've done like meat and fruit, like pineapple, oranges, all that shit. There's still plant toxins in fruit, by the way, like in lemons and just citrus fruit. I believe it's called fluorocumarins. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but they make you photosensitive and they make you essentially burn faster in the sun. It's kind of crazy. I've seen pictures of people getting like third degree burns because it's like third or second degree burns because they like touched lime. It's crazy. But yeah, like the plant toxins are still a thing. You can actually look them up on the World Health Organization website. Just look up, I believe it's natural toxins found in food. There's cyanide in almonds and cassava root, which a lot of people eat down in the tropics. Yeah, it's a lot of nasty stuff in plants that I try to avoid. But touching on more of the carbohydrate side of things, because whenever you get past that, you get to fruits. Fruits tend to have less plant toxins in them, and so you get to this meat and fruit diet, carbohydrates, and yeah. So the next hurdle is carbohydrates and that sort of thing. um, I don't eat carbohydrates either. I don't eat fruits. Like I said, I'm ketogenic carnivore. The reason why fruit isn't ideal, from my understanding, the reason why, again, I've cut out all plants is because I learned about how toxic carbohydrates are. And I mean, it's the same sort of deal with the plant toxins, except carbs are really a lot more abundant, in my opinion, nowadays. And people are addicted to carbs because sugar is a drug, plain and simple. Whenever I learned that, I it made sense to me. Why? Because I binge ate fruit. What? Fruit? No, that's so healthy for you, is it? Whenever it's a sugar bomb, like I don't get how these people could possibly think a banana is. How is a banana that much healthier than a candy bar nowadays? How? How can it possibly be healthier? Because bananas, if you look at them when they're ripe, by the way, whenever they actually taste good, let's just put it at that, bananas have basically the same amount of sugar as a candy bar. And some people say, "Oh, but it's processed sugar versus natural sugar, bro." Sugar is sugar, flat out. It just is. It's the same chemical structure in either or. Now, some candies and some whatever, high fructose corn syrup. Oh my gosh, it's 55-45, where it's 55% fructose, 55% glucose. Oh my god. Right? And yeah, that's bad because it's super dense and it's processed and it's probably got some other junk in there as well. But honey has more fructose in it than high fructose corn syrup. It's either that or it's the same. Honey. This is the stuff that animal-based people like to tout all the time. Bro, have some raw honey, bro. Like it's so good for you. How? It's just straight sugar, dude. Yeah, like okay, like the biotic stuff in it, it's just sugar, dude. Like I don't get how people are like people are just addicted to sugar, bro. It's so funny to look at these people who are like, bro, but you gotta have carbs, bro. You gotta have them. They're so like this honey is so good for you, bro. You're just like they're just coping. They're literally just coping and just feeding their sugar addiction. It's ridiculous. You do not need carbohydrates to function. The amount of carbohydrates you need to have energy, to function, to live your longest and your healthiest is zero. There is no dietary requirement for carbohydrates. Our body makes them by ourselves. We have gluconeogenesis. There will be some people who say, "Oh, but if carbs aren't important, then why does our body make them?" Because yes, we do need glucose for a few functions in our body, but we need 4 grams of it in our body at a given time. Like that's the maximum. If you go up to 5 grams, you're a diabetic, right? If you're eating grams and grams and grams and grams, hundreds of grams of carbohydrates a day, you are spiking your blood sugar, you're spiking your blood glucose levels. That is going to cause glycation in your body. Like I said, 4 grams of glucose in your blood at a time. There's a reason for that, because if it goes any higher, then you start getting damage. But there's these people out there eating 300 grams of carbs a day saying, "Oh, but you need carbs for energy, bro." You're spiking your blood sugar. You're causing damage to your body. It's just the facts. You are, right? And that's why your insulin goes up, to save your ass from dying. You do not need carbohydrates. And that's something that I wish I knew earlier. And that's another reason why I started this, because originally I was kind of worried, like, oh, but what about my energy? You get all the energy that you need from your fat stores. That's just how it is. It is the primary fuel source that your body's going to use. If you're eating glucose, if you're eating sugar, then your body's going to start using sugar. Why? Because your body doesn't want sugar in its body. It's just common sense. Whenever you're fat adapted, you'll start making ketones, you'll start using fatty acids for energy. You're going to feel great. I went through an adaptation period for the first 2 weeks where I felt kind of weird. I didn't necessarily have low energy. I just felt different. And then it became normal. I was like, oh, this is what running on fat as fuel feels like. So just keep that in mind. You have no need for carbohydrates. If you still want to eat them and be a carb addict, by all means, keep at it. Totally fine. And there are some carbs in like dairy, and I will have cheese every now and then. So I do understand I'm maybe not 100% 000 carb all of the time. But the amount of carbs that I've had in the very, like, I still keep it ketogenic, to say the least. So under 20 grams a day. Like, dude, if I had 20 grams of carbs a day, I'd be doing something crazy with dairy. Like, and I haven't done that in this year so far, and I don't plan to necessarily. So, yeah, you don't need carbs. If you want to have them, just keep in mind that whenever you do increase the amount of carbs that you eat, you're going to be increasing your blood sugar. You're going to be causing some level of damage. Now, is it significant? Maybe not. And maybe it won't kill you immediately, but it's that total time under the curve of elevated blood sugar that makes a difference in your life. it's over an extended period of time that that damage builds and builds and builds, and then you end up dying a decade, 2 decades early because you've built up that damage. And just be aware of that. Glycation is real. It's just how it is. So that's kind of the two things. You didn't need carbs. I mean, carbs are addictive, they're drugs. Plants are toxic. You don't really need to eat plants. What else? What was the third one? I guess the third one is. Hold up, I'm going to cut this part out. Cut this part. Oh, yeah. So the third reason why I started carnivore and why you should try it too is really just because I found that this is the most compelling diet in terms of like a evolutionary argument on a biological basis. And the reason for that is because if you look at our anatomy as human beings, just as a structure, right? Our digestive tract is built to be eating more meat than plants. Now, some people will argue, but we're apes, we should be eating plants. We're omnivores. I disagree. Because if you look at the structure of, say, like a lion or a tiger or a wolf, whatever, if you look at all of their digestive tracts, they have a low stomach pH, or even like scavengers like vultures. They have a stomach with a very, very low pH so that they can digest the meat. They have a relatively long small intestine and then a shorter large intestine, and they don't have a cecum. They have, or it's very small. What description does that fit our description? Yeah, it does actually. Our stomach pH is some of the lowest in the entire animal kingdom, right? We're on the level of other scavengers like vultures actually. I think ours is around like 2 or 3. I'm not sure on the exact number, but it's very low. It's actually lower than like a lion's. And it's theorized that that's because we came from scavenger backgrounds, picking the bones off of a kill after some big, like a lion killed a gazelle or something and left the scraps. So our ancestors would climb down out of the trees, or like just find the kill, take that stuff and like start eating it. And so we could actually handle bacterial load because of our strong stomach acid. And then the short the short intestine is longer. I mean, it's just to absorb more of the nutrients and have more stuff to absorb it. We have what is it? We have like 5 organs that work at the same time in cohesion to digest fat alone, right? We have the liver, we have the gallbladder, we have the small intestine, the stomach, we have the pancreas. Dude, there's so many things that go into trying to get animal nutrition specifically, because like that's I'm pretty sure that's almost the entire reason why we have a gallbladder is to digest fat. Um, it's funny why people think, oh, fat's so bad for you, but we have so many organs, literally, that evolution custom built for us to digest fat. Crazy. Um, if you go, I mean, and I think the biggest thing that kind of disproves that we are not really meant to eat plants anymore is that we don't have a huge, large intestine um, to pack fiber into anymore. If you look at something like a koala or a gorilla, who are herbivores, you see that they have this long cecum in their body, this long tube that they pack fiber into, and they that's where they cultivate bacteria that break that fiber down into short chain fatty acids, and they also get the protein from those bacteria as well. We don't have that anymore. We have a tiny little appendix that's the size of a pinky. It's tiny. It does That is a vestigial organ. And the reason for that is because we haven't been eating plants for millions of years as a species up until recently. And so there's no like an anatomical reason on why we should be eating plants as a whole. And it just makes the most sense why meat is the most digestible thing to consume, and why it's honestly the only thing that people should be consuming, because anything else is just taking up energy and producing extra waste for no reason. So there's that part and kind of the biological part. Evolutionarily, if you look at, I guess, our ancestral like fossils, if you look into the fossil record, if you look into the skeletons of civilizations and pre-civilization, if you look at around the time that people started switching over to agriculture because we ran out of megafauna, or maybe people discovered farming so it would just be easier to live, you saw their health decline rapidly. You saw people's height get shorter by 6 inches. You saw um, dental mishaps happening, crooked teeth, smaller jaws, smaller brains. If you look at the brain size of us as a species, we go up and up and up and up, and then it just dips back down immediately. Why? Because 10,000 years ago, whenever we started eating more plants, we stopped getting as much animal nutrition and our brain shrunk. That's not good. Yeah. I mean, that's really what kind of compelled me in terms of that, in terms of like the evolutionary thing. It's because like if you think back to the ice ages, where were we eating our plants? We were eating exclusively like mammoth, bro. If we survived it on then, and that's whenever our brains grew the most, whenever we were the tallest, at the prime of like our physical ability as human beings, then who's to say like how is that not the optimal human diet? How is that not? Just on an evolutionary time basis. How is that not? How is the diet that has made us shorter, sicker, fatter, weaker as a species, how is, grains and weird artificially bred fruit and weird chemically processed oils, how are those things possibly optimal for our health? It doesn't make any sense. And yeah, those are really the three biggest reasons why I switched to carnivore. If this has compelled you in any way, I would really recommend that you just try it out for 30 days. Like, I don't even think 30 days is that big of a commitment to try something on a diet, to be honest. Like, or even a week, 2 weeks. You still honestly need more time to get fat adapted and to really see the benefits. But I mean, even if you give it a try for a week, like, don't knock it before you try it. I just think you're a little bit more informed whenever you actually speak from a place of having tried it before, because then you can actually understand, oh, I get what these people are talking about. And so I might try experimenting on my own diet personally and just do some like random weird stuff just because then I can speak from a place of having understood it. But I would say at the bare minimum, give the carnivore diet a shot. Give keto, low carb a shot, because it's greatly improved mine and so many other people's health and life. And I just think the evidence is there. You just have to look at it just a little bit more clearly. You have to use your brain for a few seconds and just look at it for what it is, and then give it a shot. I wouldn't be advocating for this as hard as I am now if I hadn't actually tried it. So just give it a shot, see how you feel. If you don't like it after 30 days, then just switch back. Like, 30 days of meat isn't going to kill you. As a matter of fact, I think it'll actually help you survive longer. But 30 days of anything probably won't kill you unless it's like severe drug abuse. So, good luck to you. If you want my help getting onto keto, carnivore, low carb, and you want to improve your health and your fitness, go check out the links in the description. Go hit me up on Instagram, see what I can do. I'll see you in the next one. Adios.